From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central, and I am Judith TV. The top stories tonight: Senate passes bill mandating 30% local processing from local materials before export. The United Nations U.S. joint delegation expresses solidarity with Benue State following recent attacks on its communities. And offshore, U.S. House of Representatives passes President Trump's One Big Beautiful bill after votes with hair's breadth margin.
In business, IMF report shows Nigeria's fiscal deficit expected to rise to 4.7% of gross domestic product in 2025.
And in sports, Nigeria is thrown into mourning as former Super Eagles goalkeeper and 1994 Nations Cup winner Peter Rufai dies at 61. Details in a moment.
The details of this and plenty more coming up right now. And we begin tonight at the upper legislative chamber, where the lawmakers have approved the bill mandating that all raw materials exported from the country undergo a minimum of 30% local processing before they are shipped abroad. Now, this followed the adoption of the report by the Senate Committee on Science and Technology on the amendment of the Raw Materials Research and Development Council Act 2022, sponsored by Senator representing Ebonyi North, Oyekachi Nwamboyi. The bill seeks to promote value addition, strengthen the local manufacturing sector, reduce reliance on imports, and stimulate sustainable economic growth. Under the new provisions, any exporter who fails to meet a 30% processing requirement will be subjected to a 15% levy on the export value of the raw materials and may face suspension or revocation of their raw material value addition certificate. And in other developments, at least 4 occupants of a partially collapsed building on Adeniji Adele Road in Isaleko area of Lagos Island are currently receiving treatment at a nearby hospital after it partially collapsed on Thursday. Officials of the Lagos State Emergency Agency, LASEMA, who chose to speak off camera, say no casualty has been recorded so far. News Central's Victor Mbadike was at the site, and he's here with me to share what his experience was. So, as always, Victor, good to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much, Judith.
So just give us a bit of an exact brief of how this building collapsed. Let's start with that. And how the occupants that are being hospitalized, did you get any update from them?
Well, let's begin with the fact that you and I know that Lagos Island can be chaotic, particularly the geography, the way that a particular area is built. In fact, getting into that location was even quite hectic as well. And so one of the things I noticed was the fact that, which is of course not unusual, is most buildings, most structures on Lagos Island are built in very close clusters, which means that you hardly have breathing space. And now, so a particular building had a crack, right? Now, the occupants of that building had been told to leave for some time. The developers had told them to evacuate that building. But now they refused to leave because the landlord had collected rent from them. So if you're telling me to leave, why are you demanding rent from me? So normally they paid and they felt that there was no point leaving, even at the expense of their own health, at the expense of their own lives. And then something happened all of a sudden, and then the landlord felt that if you're not going to leave, we're going to force you out of that place. So they began to remove certain structures, iron gates and all of that, which was the immediate cause of that partial collapse. So on Thursday morning, just right this morning, sometime around 6 a.m., the building had begun to have, partially collapsed, right? Now, the occupants of that building, some of them were seriously injured and rushed to the hospital, and while others were very lucky to escape unhurt. So we did speak to a few of them who began to question the legality of landlords in that place collecting rent from them when they know that their own structures, their own houses are not structurally fit. Now, The question is, how was the caterpillar or whatever the Lasema guys used to bring down Astra, how were they able to gain access into that place? It means that the buildings before the main building that was affected really had to be brought down for them to gain access, which means that even if those buildings were actually okay, they had to pay the price for the building that was not okay. So that's two situations.
And this is what happens when you have clusters, when
two situations. So we have the occupants of that main building, lamenting and crying for help, while those whose buildings were brought down because they had to help them also, crying for help. So it's really chaotic. And but the good thing is that we do not have any case of casualty, at least so far. But what we have are a couple of persons who are still in the hospital, being treated at the moment.
And so what's tomorrow going to look like?
Oh, well, from what Lasema officials told us, evacuation will continue even up on, in terms of the debris now, up until tomorrow. And hopefully, the buildings, the adjoining buildings have been marked for evacuation. So whoever lives in that surrounding, those buildings will have to evacuate as soon as possible. Otherwise, they would, similar fate would meet them. That's just the price to pay for such disobedience.
Price to pay for such a... Victor, we want to say thank you. Victor Mbadike, our correspondent, who was live at the scene of the building collapse in Adeniji Adeleye in Isaloko, Lagos Island. Let's go back to our headline story, shall we, where the Senate has approved a bill mandating that all raw materials exported from the country undergo a minimum of 30% local processing before they are shipped abroad. Now, this is followed by the adoption of the report by the Senate Committee on Science and Technology on the amendment of the Raw Materials Research and Development Council Act of 2022. Sponsored by Senator representing Ebonyi North, Onyekachi Nwambunyi, the bill seeks to promote a value addition, strengthen the local manufacturing sector, reduce reliance on imports, and stimulate sustainable economic growth. And now joining us to discuss this further, we have Dr. Nnemeka Obiareri. He is a policy affairs and investment analyst. Sir, as always, Doctor, thank you so much for joining us on tonight. Now, kindly share with us your opinion on the bill. Let's start there. It's mandating 30% local processing of raw materials before export. What's your thought on that? Let's start there.
This is actually the best bill after the tax reform bill that the National Assembly has passed. And it's very interesting because this bill will help us to improve in a lot of things that we have gotten wrong in the both the upstream agri sector and processing sector and distribution sector and storages. I'll give you a typical example. We know that cocoa is one crop that we produce one of the top 4 producers in the whole world. Of course, we can actually do times 10 what we are currently doing now. But interestingly, we end up exporting only the cocoa bean seeds, whereas the likes of Switzerland, where you have Nestle and the rest of them, will process it and ship it back to us as chocolates, which has a global market size that is 6-7 times bigger than the raw material size. I'll give another example, the issue of tomato value chain. The global tomato market size is about $278 billion sized. But it will interest you to know that just the tomato powder market alone is over $15 billion. And here in Nigeria, we lose a lot of our fresh vegetables, fresh pepper, fresh tomatoes, and other fresh fruits, losses to post-harvest losses because of lack of storage facilities. We don't process them and all those stuff. And that's almost about 3.5 trillion naira worth of agro-commodity values lost to post-harvest losses. Now, with this bill in place, there will be the motivation for some of us who are massively in the agri sector to now look at exploring all the very easy low-hanging technologies that can be deployed to ensure that we add at least 30% value to some of the raw materials that we currently waste, from cocoa to yam to tomatoes to pepper to plantain to banana to other edibles. Is a very good one, and it's not just enough to pass the law. We must also go ahead to implement it to make sure that implementation and enforcement is very, very key. Whichever agency that will be saddled with running it and implementing it, we need to set up offices across the 774 local government areas and at the exit ports in Nigeria, and also to create a lot of training, awareness, and all the rest of the orientation. See, it's very, very good. I've always said it and I've always maintained it that Nigeria is one country that ticks the right boxes in a better position to do nothing less than $350 billion agro commodity exports annually.
Doctor,
if we do the right things, follow the right processes, and
Doctor, before we get into implementation, let's just quickly let's just talk about the impact of this bill so we can just sort of streamline it for our viewers, right? How would the bill impact the livelihoods of, small-scale miners and artisanal producers in Nigeria? What support systems will be put in place just to make sure that their lives are impacted?
Let me tell you how it will impact their life. Some of us who are in that sector, who are knowledgeable, because that sector is driven by knowledge. Basically, what we are going to be doing now, I and my team, even before the bill was passed, we've always advocated for that bill. We are one at the forefront of advocating for the passage of this bill. We will be going to, under a missions community, that's private-public partnership, to be setting up storage and processing clusters in all the 774 local government areas where we have security. Basically, what it will do is that we are going to aggregate the artisanal farmers, the artisanal producers, the peasant farmers. We are going to aggregate them into clusters and also provide them with things that they can use to preserve before selling out in the market. So basically, like I said, some of those who are, of course, we have people that have actually been buying most of these raw materials. We are also going to go into a lot of technical partnership with some of the major importers of the things we produce here on how we can work together, set up storage centers in local government areas, at the ward areas, cottage processing plants, so that whatever is produced at the upstream, we'll purchase it, put it at that level that is required for exports, and it actually creates more jobs, more opportunities, more revenues, more exports, more dollar coverage in Nigeria, more tax revenues. Globally, it will also help us to extricate a lot of Nigerians, over 197 million under poverty from poverty. After aggregate employs over 72 million Nigerians.
All right.
With this in place, measures will be put in place under private-public partnership arrangement to drive enforcement, and then it's a win-win for everybody.
Well, Dr. I must say thank you for taking that time to join us. Dr. Nemeka Obiareri is a policy affairs and investment analyst and joined us to discuss the 30% local processing of raw materials, which is now being mandated due to this bill that's been passed at the Senate. Once again, thank you. Coming up tonight, treat us better. Nigerian doctors cry out as federal government is set to deploy medics to St. Lucia. This story and plenty more after the break. Stay with us. Hey, welcome back. You're watching Tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. Senate passes bill mandating 30% local processing of raw materials before export. The United Nations U.S. joint delegation expresses solidarity with Benue State following recent attacks on its communities. An offshore U.S. House of Representatives passes President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill after votes with hair's breadth margin. And back home to Nigeria, where the Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, has expressed concern over a plan by the federal government to deploy Nigerian doctors and healthcare professionals to St. Lucia. The development comes amidst widespread discontent among medical practitioners in the country who are grappling with systemic neglect, poor remuneration, and withheld allowances. The NMA, in a press statement signed by its Secretary General, Dr. Benjamin Egbo, described the move as a deeply troubling contradiction, questioning the logic behind exporting medical talent abroad while neglecting the welfare and dignity of doctors serving in Nigeria. The doctors' umbrella body lamented the harsh working conditions and poor welfare of Nigerian health workers, many of whom are leaving the country in droves in search of better opportunities. The NMA also reminded the government of its primary responsibility to ensure the well-being of healthcare professionals and the citizens. A major step in fostering innovation and youth empowerment in Nigeria, the 29th American space in the country has officially opened in Abeokuta, Ogun State capital. The new facility is the second in the state and aims to boost leadership, entrepreneurship and creativity among young Nigerians. News Central's Israel Ifirobo completes the report.
The Ogun State Tech Hub in Abeokuta now hosts Nigeria's 29th American Space, a center dedicated to innovation, education, and youth development. Acting U.S. Consul General Jolene Gorge, alongside Governor Dapo Abiodun, inaugurated the facility.
It is more than a space, like I said earlier on. It is a platform that presents an opportunity to connect, further strengthen and connect America with Nigeria, particularly through the lenses of our youths. And knowing fully well that in Ogun State, we have probably the largest center of incubation for young men and women, because we are the education capital of Nigeria.
Ogun State is obviously open for business, and the United States wants to be a partner. We're delighted that we have this space for all of the youth to come. As noted, a lot of wonderful resources can be accessed through this space.
The American Space will run programs and workshops focused on leadership and entrepreneurship, thanks to a partnership with GFA Technologies and strong backing from the government of Ogun State.
This tech hub was established in the first 90 days of administration because we saw an opportunity to nurture our youth in the right direction. The American mission has, shared that vision with us alongside with Mrs. GFA.
Collaboration, as I said, us, a private sector player, the GFA Technologies Group, through our GFA Foundation, working with the United States Mission in Nigeria, as well as the Ogun State government, to bring technology access to all of our youthful population in Ogun State.
Tech entrepreneur Debo Omolulu, whose company co-founded the space, says the hub is already primed to deliver results.
Right now, GFA Technologies, through our Gateway Skills program, we have about 30,000 young people that we have kind of like already trained. And so with the corner being here now, we're now going to even enable things even more.
This is the 29th American Space in Nigeria. They are networked together. So wherever you are watching this, there's going to be an American Space near you. And we really invite you to join us in making Nigeria great and America great.
The new American Space is expected to serve as a beacon of innovation, connecting youth to global opportunities and driving Ogun State's digital future. In Ogun State, for News Central, Israel Ifirobo.
The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, is defending the 39 billion naira renovation and renaming of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu International Conference Center in Abuja. While Wike says the revamped facility has already generated 650 million naira in just 3 weeks, a massive leap from its previous annual earnings of 50 million naira. He rejected claims that he allocated 41 plots of land to his sons, describing the accusation as false and politically motivated.
The money that it was paid to the FCT every year, 50 million naira. As I speak to you, that gave a commission in June 10. Do you know the revenue was made? Within 3 weeks, 650 million naira. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. 650 million naira. But this was somebody giving us 50 million naira a year. We have 2,000, 10,000 land. Ordinary mathematics just tells you that. And then for the value of $3.something billion US, it is something about almost 4 or 5 trillion naira. And then you want me to stay to listen to you. These are the kind of things I tell you. stories will come and tell me, okay, he gave his son 4,000 square meters of land. Okay, maybe it's correct. For example, I said, okay, let me listen to it. But all this rubbish, and I know where it's coming from. There are a few who here where tongues are wagging. I have never had. I don't owe anybody any explanation. How peace was achieved. What's important is that peace. Yes.
Still in the capital, in a decisive move to end the protracted strike by primary school teachers in the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, has directed the diversion of 6 months of internally generated revenue from area councils to offset outstanding salary arrears. The directive followed weeks of protests by the teachers over non-payment of the minimum wage and other entitlements. News Central's Sagir Ibrahim reports.
The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, says he will not be swayed by protest, but will act to ensure accountability.
If it is by blackmail, nobody will get me. Yes, I will come down. I will not.
At a resolution meeting in Abuja, Wike blamed the area council chairman for the backlog of salary arrears, distancing the FCT administration from the crisis.
FCT is not weak. Area councils are the ones weak. But Nigerians know that very well. However, as a responsible organization of government, we will always intervene and see what we can do.
Also present at the meeting were representatives of the Nigerian Union of Teachers, National Assembly members, and the National Association of Nigerian Students, FCT chapter. They lauded the minister's intervention and urged the NUT to reconsider its stance.
After exhaustive deliberation and with the firm intervention of the Honorable Minister, the accruing revenue of the councils for the past 6 months we have been collectively agreed will be channeled towards solving this problem. It's not 100%, but for now we have agreed that at least about 70% of the entitlement of what is owed will be sorted out.
Our 6 months IGR has been completely picked to settle this issue. So ours is pleading with the NUT to look at our children with a good faith and call up this strike.
Fortunately, when they got the calculation of the IGR from January to June, we were able to get 70% of the money they are owing them, which the Honorable Minister said they have seized their IGR, that is the area council chairman IGR, and is giving it to them.
Following the engagement, the NUT pledged to consult its members before making a final decision on the strike.
No, we have to go back and tell our people. It is not a problem at all. We don't have a power. It is not a problem. Don't be. We don't have a power.
To address the lingering concerns, a committee has also been constituted with a 2-week timeline to resolve all outstanding issues. In Abuja for News Central, Sakir Ibrahim.
And now to security matters. The Defense Headquarters says the troops of the Nigerian Armed Forces arrested 1,191 suspected terrorists during various operations in the second quarter of 2025. Director of Defense Media Operations, Marcos Kangi, disclosed this while briefing journalists on Thursday in Abuja. According to him, 543 kidnapped victims were rescued within the same period, while 682 terrorists and their families surrendered to the military. Kangi added that troops under Operation Delta Safe also counted oil theft and illegal refining activities estimated at over 3.5 billion naira.
The quarter also witnessed mass surrender of Boko Haram and ISWAP/just terrorists due to troops' overwhelming firepower. For instance, our troops killed several terrorist kingpins and their foot soldiers, arrested over 1,191 of them, and rescued about 543 kidnapped victims. During the quarter also, about 682 terrorists and their families surrendered to our troops. Among the terrorists eliminated were dreaded Amir Abu Fatima, Kingpin Auta, Abdul Jamilu, Salisu Malam, Jida, Maiwada, and Maidada, as well as Uwanchi Eze, otherwise known as Onu.
And still on security, a joint delegation from the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and U.S. congressional staff has expressed solidarity with Benue State following recent deadly attacks in Yelwata and other communities. During a courtesy visit to the Benue State Government House in Makurdi, the delegation, led by UNHCR's Jesse Angsley, stated that the crisis was being closely monitored in Washington, D.C. The team, which includes 8 U.S. congressional staff members who are on a fact-finding mission to evaluate humanitarian needs and the impact of U.S. aid in Nigeria. After visiting Borno State, they engaged with Benue officials and toured the internally displaced persons IDP camp at Makurdi's International Market. And watching tonight, still ahead. Mourners set police station ablaze in protest following killing of Kenyan teacher. We'll bring you the details of this and plenty more just after the break. Stay with us. And you're welcome back. And it's off to Kenya, where chaos broke out in Homa Bay County on Thursday as mourners forcefully took the casket of the late Albert Omondi Ujwang at the Mawigo police station in protest against alleged police brutality. The demonstration turned violent when the enraged crowd set the station on fire, blaming police for Ojwang's death while in custody. Ojwang, a 31-year-old teacher and political blogger, was arrested on June the 7th over alleged cyber harassment by Deputy Inspector General of Police Alid Lagat. His death has also since prompted public outrage. For more insight on this, we're joined by a global affairs analyst, Dr. Victor Ohai, and he joins us live this morning. Doctor, a very good morning to you, or rather, I beg your pardon, good evening. I'm tired at this point, but thank you so much for joining us, sir. The protest in Kenya took a really deadly turn with the burning of a police station. Even if worse has happened in the past, where could we be headed with this latest development?
I mean, it's really sad, starting from last year when the riot started over finance bill and some of the economic hardships that young Kenyans generally were feeling. I think that the government didn't handle it properly. I want to draw a parallel with what happened in Nigeria. You know that recently about 4 tax bills were passed in Nigeria. When these tax bills were being proposed, obviously the opposition, even the governor, especially for the North, went against it. But the government went into dialogue and negotiation, and at the end of the day, they got input from all parties, and that side was able to be resolved. But Ruto, on the other hand, rather believes in brute force, and when it didn't seem like he was going to act reasonably, young people, especially Gen Z in Kenya, took to the streets and held into ransom, brought the government to a point where they had no choice but to back down. And I think, you know, that the way it was handled at that time was not properly handled. This year, a year later, what was supposed to just happen was peaceful demonstration. But when you have a government that is very nervous, and is not, and even the president has been known to say that, you know, you cannot, of course, you don't harass your national police or anything like that, but I think that his approach and the kind of backing he gave to the police made them begin to act with impunity to the extent that they had to carry this young blogger and then, you know, throw her into death in the police station. And they denied it at first, until it became very obvious with results from post-mortem that they lied against him, that he hit his head against where it became obvious that none of that happened. And so that death has fueled, coupled with the killings in the past few days, and the police action, I would call the police action mob action, it has fueled, the crisis even more. So I think that just the fact that the government has mismanaged matters, and if you want to know the way forward, I think that unless the president actually apologizes and sits down to reasonably talk with people and assuage the anger of his people, his days will just be numbered.
And now, today's outcome, like you rightfully pointed, could have been different, but the government's handling of the entire episode of Ojwang's death looks every bit to have fallen short of the best of expectations. Now, last week protesters were described by the government as terrorists looking for regime change. How do you reconcile these? Do you agree to that term?
I don't agree, because even when the adversary protests were to start, the Kenyans agreed generally it's going to be a peaceful protest. And the reason for this adversary protest is like what happened October 20, I think it's 2020 or so, in Nigeria, where the SARS riots took place. People were killed, and then even a year later, people were marking adversaries. That was exactly what was happening, because lives were lost. And people wanted to just come out and protest peacefully in memory of those who had passed on. So they had moved on with the finance bill and all that, but they just wanted to come out peacefully. But the government obviously didn't see it that way, and they launched the first set of attacks, had bike riders attacking innocent citizens, and of course it was bound to go. Everything was bound to go south, and that's what precipitated things to where it is right now. The president has certainly not handled matters. He has certainly not spoken. He has certainly not handled matters, even with the police force. The police themselves, tagging it regime change is just an easy way out of addressing a very present and how do I put it now, problem that almost does not seem to go away because of the way the government is handling it.
Right. Speaking of Kenya's government, there's now been talks about police brutality, and it doesn't look like the government are very ready to punish the bad eggs within the ranks of the police, or even be more, strict with the police regarding police brutality. From the Deputy Inspector General, Deputy Inspector of Police, who stepped aside to the police officers who shot a vendor dead on the road. Why is good corporate governance such a difficult thing in Kenya, one would say Africa at this point?
Well, I don't think the word is corporate governance. I just think it's about human rights and human rights management. There is nothing that dialogue cannot take care of. And brute force certainly will only, introduce more brute force, which is exactly what we're seeing right now. If protesters come out peacefully, as have been seen to happen sometimes in certain select places in Nigeria where you have commissioners who say that wear screwed on their heads or their shoulders, you find a situation where the police commissioners will come out, provide security, and where the protesters are, so that things don't, how do I put it now, street urchins don't hijack, the protests. That's what should happen there, but that does not seem to be the case. I think Ruto just saying that a clamp down on protesters is what can make him have his way. He's also nervous, and he thinks that every protest is about regime change. And Kenya, unfortunately, has had a very good record, a human rights record before now, but that does not appear to be the case anymore.
There are still several missing young persons who have just, disappeared in the face of the tensions. Why does it seem so difficult for the government to reach a solution to this crisis and turn a new page for good?
I guess it's a matter of leadership style. Kenyatta was there before now, and I don't know if I can say it could have handled it differently, but it's too early in the day for Ruto's government what I see from what happened from last year, improper consultation, brute force in handling matters, lack of dialogue, and these are all recipes for disaster for anyone who aims to rule in a democracy. If you are in an autocratic regime or a military regime, it's understandable, that's the way, but certainly not in a democratic setting like Kenya, and a country that has enjoyed democracy for quite a long time now. Kenya has, as far as I can remember, since independence, has been under democratic rule. So this is strange to them, and which is why it's getting the reactions it's getting.
Well, I must say thank you, Dr. Okai, for taking out the time to join us. Dr. Victor Okai, he's a global affairs analyst, giving us a bit of insight following protests that have broke out in Kenya, and also the police station that set ablaze in Homa Bay in Kenya. Once again, Doctor, thank you for coming on. Let's switch gears now to our top story for tonight. The U.S. House of Representatives has passed President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill following long debate and deliberations that spanned almost 29 hours. The bill is an enormous tax cut and spending package that represents a pillar of President Donald Trump's agenda. The lower house of the U.S. Congress voted by a margin of 218 to 214 in favor of the bill on Thursday. All 212 Democratic members of the House opposed the bill. They were joined by Representatives Thomas Macy of Kentucky and Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, who broke from the Republican majority. You're watching Tonight, and it returns after the break with business, sports, and entertainment news. Stay with us. It's time for us to bring you the business headlines, and we have Perpetua Fasami Peters on standby. I nearly ruined your name, Perpetua. Forgive me.
That's okay.
Yeah. Anyway, good evening.
Good evening to you.
You have the floor.
Thank you. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, projects Nigeria's fiscal deficit to widen to 4.7% of GDP in 2025, up from 4.1% in 2024. This is contained in its latest report. This is driven by falling oil revenues and rising government expenditure despite gains from ongoing reforms. The fund emphasized its earlier warning that the 2025 budget has been based on overly optimistic oil revenue assumptions, adding that it is being undermined by lower prices and production shortfalls. While non-oil revenue efforts have improved, the oil sector's underperformance continues to threaten fiscal stability, prompting urgent calls for recalibrated fiscal policies to safeguard economic sustainability. The Nigerian naira extended its gains for the fifth consecutive day in the official market, driven by improved supply and rising investor confidence. The currency closed at 1,525 naira 82 kobo per dollar on Thursday, appreciating from 1,526 naira 15 kobo the previous day. Increased foreign portfolio inflows, particularly from recent automobile auctions, boosted dollar supply in the Nigerian foreign exchange market. According to the Central Bank of Nigeria, trades ranged between 1,524 naira 50 kobo and 1,527 naira 50 kobo per dollar. The stock market now, another healthy dose of investor optimism lifted the market Thursday, extending the bullish momentum from Wednesday's trading session. This drove year-to-date returns to 17.56%. Today's gains were primarily driven by bellwether stocks, which include GTCO, Oando, and Transcorp. Now let's take a look at the snapshot. We have it still maintaining the 120,000 mark, and this time it's very close to 121,000. Is it going to go back to 121,000? Well, we have Friday to judge. It's up 53 basis points, and now to the market capitalization, 76.58 trillion naira. To sector performance now, it was broadly positive as all 5 sectors under our purview closed in the green. Beginning with the banking sector, it's up 1.29%. Now, the Tier 1 banking names actually started off the day on a strong note and concluded with Zenith Bank, UBA, and GTCO all closing higher for the day. You've got insurance here up 2.76%. That's the best performer for the day. And you can thank Mansard for what we see here. Mansard is up 8.25%. And now in the oil and gas sector, we're seeing it up 69 basis points. That's because of renewed optimism in Owando, which lifted the oil and gas sector. Consumer goods up 74 basis points. I also have industrial goods there. You've got WAPCO to thank for that, up 34 basis points. And that's a wrap on Business Tonight. Many thanks for watching. I am Perpetua Fast Repeater. Tonight continues with Judith.
And joining us now for sports, we got Babatunde Koiki. There he is. Almost birthday mate, by the way. He was born July 1st, July 2nd. He could have waited 24 hours, but he chose not to. So there's a beef between the both of us.
Hi, Judith. Sorry if I'm not looking particularly dapper.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to get you in the good spirits, high spirits, but it didn't work.
I know. Pretty sad day for the nation after news broke today that one of its football heroes, former Super Eagles goalkeeper Peter Rufai, died today in Lagos at the age of 61. Rufai was a central figure in the golden age of Nigerian football in the 1990s. He was the first choice goalkeeper during the 1994 Africa Cup of Nations title win and also represented Nigeria at 2 FIFA World Cups, USA 94 and France 98. Renowned for his leadership, reflexes and charisma, Rufai earned over 60 caps for the national team and remains one of the most celebrated goalkeepers in Nigerian football history. He started his career in Lagos with the defunct stationery stores and played for multiple clubs in 4 European countries. After retirement, he remained active in football development and youth mentoring through his Starroof Academy in Lagos and was also involved in sports consultancy with occasional appearances as a TV pundit. Meanwhile, tributes continue to pour in from across the world as football mourns the tragic death of Portugal and Liverpool striker Diogo Jota at the age of 28 early this morning. His brother, Andre Silva, also died in the accident as well, which took place at the Spanish province of Zamora. Both men were traveling in a Lamborghini, which left the road after a tire blowout while overtaking another vehicle and then caught fire. Jota married his long-term partner, Rute Cardoso, with whom he had 3 children just 11 days ago. Now, reports say he was on his way to take a ferry and return to Liverpool for pre-season training when he died in the accident. Liverpool and his national team captain Cristiano Ronaldo have led with the tributes, with the club saying that they are devastated, while Ronaldo is saying it doesn't make sense. Here in Africa, the Super Falcons of Nigeria are preparing for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations campaign, and the captain of the team, Rasheedat Ajibade, has publicly criticized the Confederation of African Football over substandard player accommodations at the women's tournament in Morocco. In a post on her Instagram story, Ajibade expressed frustration at the cramped conditions, revealing that 2 professional players were placed in a room barely the size of a kitchen. The post has drawn attention to ongoing concerns about the treatment and welfare of female athletes at major African tournaments. Nigeria is set to face Tunisia in their opening match on Sunday at 5 p.m. To Wimbledon now, and Novak Djokovic moved a step closer to a record 25th Grand Slam title with a dominant straight sets victory over British wildcard Dan Evans in the second round. The 38-year-old needed just 1 hour and 47 minutes to seal a 6-3, 6-2, 6-love victory on centre court, firing 46 winners in a commanding performance. After battling stomach issues in his opening match, Djokovic showed no signs of struggle as he advanced to the third round. The 7-time Wimbledon champion is aiming to surpass Margaret Court's all-time Grand Slam record and match Roger Federer's 8th titles at the All-England club. Elsewhere, Iga Swiatek survived the scare as a 5-time Grand Slam champion fought back for a 5-7, 6-2, 6-1 win in the women's draw against American world number 208, Katie McNally. Polish 8-seed Swiatek was in danger of becoming the latest star to crash out of the grass court Grand Slam after losing the first set on center court. 5 of the top 10 seeds have already been eliminated from the women's singles draw. And that's how we have on sports tonight. It's back to you, Judith.
for some entertainment. Adowo joins me now for the latest in entertainment. Adowo, you're looking dapper.
Thank you very much. I try my best to keep it up to speed.
There's so much going on in entertainment today, starting with the verdict with PDD.
Mm-hmm.
Diddy, love?
Well, he got away with a few.
Not shocking.
Not shocking, though.
Yeah, not shocking, because the prosecutors found it difficult to lay the case, but hey, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we have some interesting conversations as well, and this is about an African who's making us proud.
Oh, yeah. I love me one of those.
Okay.
And,
yeah. Let me give you all the updates on that shortly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Speaking about putting Africa on the map, Angela Kidjo, the 5-time Grammy-winning singer, activist, and global music icon, is set to become the first African artist to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Interesting. The Hollywood Chamber of Commerce announced her inclusion as part of the prestigious 2026 Walk of Fame class. With a career spanning over 40 years, Kidjo is celebrated for blending traditional African sound with global genres, from Afrobeats and jazz to funk and rock. Her music isn't just about rhythm, it's about revolution. She's used her voice to advocate for women's rights, education, and social justice around the world. Interesting, if I should say so myself. It's about putting Africa on the map. And quickly, let's talk about Burna Boy, because he's also doing something great. Burna Boy is back with his 8th studio album, No Sign of Weakness, arriving July 11 via Bad Habit and Atlantic Records. The Grammy-winning star has revealed a 16-track lineup packed with major collaborations. Now, listen to this. Rock icon Mick Jagger features on Empty Chairs, while Bajan artist Stromae appears on Pardon. Nigerian-American rising star Shabuzi, yes, we've claimed him as Nigerian, joins him on Change Your Mind. Now, fans can also expect previously released singles like Sweet Love, Update, Bundle by Bundle, and Ta Ta Ta, featuring Travis Scott. Now, he's fusing Afrobeats with global sounds. Burna Boy continues to expand his sonic universe. Now, this marks the release. He's launching, to mark his release, he's launching a North American tour, bringing his signature energy and cultural pride to the stage once again. Judith, interesting information right there. I'm sure you were, when I was talking about Angela Kidjo, you were like, what? Yeah.
No, I kind of knew, and I was excited. I mean, when I got, because when they were doing the announcement, right, I was watching everyone who's getting their own star, their reactions. And when I heard Angela Kidjo, I was like, about time! So I did. I said, about time!
Yes!
Yeah, exciting times.
Yes.
Really exciting. The next person I want on the wall, on the floor, walk of, should be our very own. Do you know who that is?
Who?
Fella now.
Yeah.
That's right there.
The king.
I want Fella.
The king of Afrobeats.
Yes.
He should be on the Walk of Fame.
He should be on the Walk of Fame, yeah. And finally, there's one person here who's also, who I told you, didn't I tell you, in the newsroom? Yeah, Burna Boy. Congratulations to him on his new album.
Yes.
Also, it's my birthday meet. He should reach out to me and send me my cake.
I hope so. All right, well, that's all we have on entertainment tonight.
And pretty much that's all we can take on news tonight. But before we go, here's a reminder of our top stories. And that's pretty much all we can take for tonight, but a reminder of our top stories. Senate passes bill mandating 30% local processing of raw materials before export. United Nations U.S. joint delegation expresses solidarity with Benue State following recent attacks on its communities. And lastly, U.S. House of Representatives passes President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill after votes with hair's breadth margin. Now, to remember, they can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. Do follow us on social media, by the way. We're at News Central TV on all social media platforms. You can always watch News Central live on 5 platforms: DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and also live on YouTube. And that's all for tonight. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV. From me, it's good night.